Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Yossi Goslin, NBA salary cap analyst. And with the trade deadline roughly 2 months away, I'm going to start to get a little more active and comment on rumors, all sorts of stuff as we get into the lead up to the trade deadline. And I'm going to start by going over the Jimmy Butler rumors, a guy who's been lightly mentioned as a trade candidate since last summer. Didn't really comment on that, but now it seems like his name is definitely out there. He's available. So I'm going to go over him and some of the teams he's been linked to. So let's get into it. And if you're new to the channel or been here before, just please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It'll help my channel grow. So last week, Michael Scotto on Hoops Hype posted his trade candidates article on all 30 teams. And in the Heat section, talks about Jimmy Butler, mentions the Nets, the Warriors, Rockets, and Mavs as potential candidates for him. And so Butler's name, like I mentioned, he's been linked to rumors over the summer. Most of it seemed to have been due to a contract situation. He has a player option for next year, and he was looking to get an extension, which he could only have done a 1-year extension, add an extra year beyond the player option for next season. And he didn't want to give it to him, and didn't seem like there was too much interest league-wide from a team not only willing to give up assets for him, but also give him whatever deal he wanted. So he's on the Heat for now. And now it seems like, yeah, this situation has persisted. And now today we have Shams Charania of ESPN report that the same teams for the most part are all interested in him, and that he can potentially be on the move. So the Heat right now, they're not doing particularly well in the standings, but they are above the play-in range. I think they're 12-10 right now, which even if again they're a 5 to 8 seed, doesn't really matter too much for their playoff goals because they have made 2 finals runs without any home court advantage, and the East just seems pretty weak like usual. So with him though, he's 35 now. He's constantly defied any age-related regression. But what is he looking for on his next deal? Is he looking for max-ish type money in the 50 million range? Or is he maybe the situation's a little different? Are the Heat not willing to extend him at all right now? Do they want to play it out to the very end? For a player like Jimmy Butler, maybe just want to avoid being a free agent. And I would understand that situation, try to get traded to a team that will give up assets and then also sign some sort of extension before hitting the market. So another thing to note about Jimmy Butler is that he's got a trade bonus about $550,000, which isn't much. So that would take his salary, which is just below the max, to the max. And it's not a very significant trade bonus, so it shouldn't really impact much trades. But if he waives it, he will not be able to extend with his new team for 6 months. But most likely, since it's so small, he'll just get the whole bonus. And if he's traded, I would imagine the most likely scenario is that there is some sort of extension made shortly after. So I'm going to go over all the teams he's been linked to except for the Nets. I just think with their rebuilding situation, it doesn't make sense, and they're probably going to stick to it. I don't see them pivoting to getting multiple All-Stars right now. So then the Mavs, another team that I also find rather unlikely now, just because of the sheer difficulty of what it would take for them to make a deal happen right now without including Luka Doncic, which isn't happening, or Kyrie Irving, which I highly doubt they want to do either. And the biggest complication is that they are hard capped to the first apron right now. They are about $526,000 below it. They cannot exceed that $178.1 million amount this season for any reason. So not only do they need to send out enough salary, basically dollar for dollar, or send out more than they're taking in so they can stay below the first apron, but then it gets more difficult when if you're trying to make a deal, you got to start including a bunch of other players. So not only do you have to make the money work to stay below the apron, but then afterwards, since you're going to be doing like a 4-for-1 potentially, they got to be able to fill up the rest of the roster without exceeding the second apron. So is it possible? Yes. It would probably have to be Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and then one of Maxi Kleba or Najee Marshall, most likely Maxi Kleba, just to make it work. So you're doing a 4-for-1. So you're at 12 players after, and uh, they'd have to get back to 14. They don't have to do it immediately. They can do it in 2 weeks. And that would be the most realistic way that they can make that happen while fitting Jimmy Butler at his salary. So I'm not going to really play out what the tax implication is or anything like that, because the payroll would be very much similar to what it is now. But I just find it pretty unlikely because one, I don't know if the Mavs even have enough. They only have 2 first-round picks along with these players to get a deal done. And I'm not sure if the Heat are going to feel like that's enough assets, the 25 and 31 first-round picks. But do they even want these salaries coming back? And then if not, if you get a third team involved, is it worth it for the Mavs to give up multiple assets to satisfy that team? But I think on the Mavs end, then the other issue is it really worth giving up all this depth for a player like Jimmy Butler? I would guess probably not. Yeah, even though they could probably make it work in the near future, it would be a pretty big change for the roster right now. I'm not sure that that's a direction they even want to go. Then we get to the Warriors, who of the group I think did the most realistic. I think that they've got enough stuff to interest the Heat. They have almost all their draft picks. They only have an outgoing 2030 first round pick to the Wizards, but they can still trade the reverse protection of that because it's only like 1 through 20 protected, so they can still technically trade it again. But in a sense, they still have a fresh cupboard of draft picks to offer. But I think the big name that would obviously be mentioned in any potential Jimmy Butler trade to the Warriors is Jonathan Kuminga. He is set to be a restricted free agent this summer, and I would think that that's the route that's kind of how it goes, mainly for what the Warriors are sending out. Not necessarily because the Heat wouldn't want draft picks or anything like that, but when projecting ahead of what the Warriors' payroll is going to look like, it's going to be very expensive for them to have a roster that features Curry, Jimmy Butler, making as much as he will probably want, Draymond Green, and then that's before whatever Jonathan Kuminga could command on the open market. So their situation as far as getting a trade done, very similar to the Mavs. They have a pretty similar space below the first apron. So same kind of situation. It's going to have to be pretty similar as far as what they're sending out, what they're taking in. So they can get it done with a combination of Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, DeAnthony Melton, who's out for the year. And so if it's those 3 players going out, they still need to send out just a little more. So something they could do is maybe send out Gary Payton, trade him to another team and create more flexibility simultaneously. And then it makes it much easier to fill out those last roster spots. So yeah, the Warriors definitely with the clearest path to make a Butler trade from all the other teams mentioned, in my opinion. I suppose it's just about, how much do they want to give up for him, and how much are they willing to commit to him, especially in the long term. Now that he's 35, and I guess they got to make it make sense for them. So once they get into next offseason, if he doesn't have any extension done, then he can opt into his player option and add up to 2 years. But not sure how long the Warriors would want to go on that in that scenario. Maybe they would just prefer bring him in now and extend him, give him that 1 year, and see where it goes from there.